I'm happiest in the saddle.
A fellow sportsman.
I am an FBI agent!
Great Scott!
What do you say we cut the chit-chat? A-hole!
Dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria!
Come with me if you want to live.
Hello and welcome to Retro Ramble. I'm Charlie McGee.
I'm George McGee.
And this month we're going to be doing another special of sorts. We're going to be revisiting the Muscles from Brussels that is Jean Claude Van Damme in not just one, but two films spanning 1988 to 1993. Isn't that right, George?
That's correct. So yeah, we the aim of this podcast is we revisit the films that we grew up with and watched repeatedly as youths. And I just can't believe we've been doing this podcast for almost 2 years, and this is our first foray into Van Damme.
I mean, even at the time, we knew he was funny in a way that he didn't realise, in a martial artsy sort of way. It was all about the splits.
And we spent a lot of time watching these kind of films repeatedly. I mean, yeah, we've watched a lot of Arnie films, but I'd say sort of Van Damme was right up there.
Oh yeah, no, it was Van Damme, Stallone, and Arnie. There was, and obviously a lot of Kurt Russell, a bit of Swayze. But yeah, he was up there. He's probably a lot of our screen time, a lot of time on the Glendenning's couch.
Yes, I think we've talked about in the past that our old next door neighbours, the Glendennings, were quite influential on the films that we watched growing up, and they were massive Van Damme fans.
Well, not and just as much as we were. So yeah, in this episode we will be covering chronologically. We're going to start off covering Bloodsport.
Yeah, so his Van Damme's breakout hit.
Yeah, and then we're going to move on and cover the John Woo film from 1993, which was Hard Target. So depending, by the way, if you're not into Jean Claude Van Damme, I'd just turn this episode off right now. Mm-hmm. But if depending on what you want to go back and reminisce on, we're going to start with Bloodsport. We spend probably a bit more time on that, and then we're going to tail off with Hard Target, and that will probably be around the half an hour, 40-minute sort of mark. If you want to check it out,
we'll put it in the notes the exact time we start talking about Hard Target. So this is the first time we've done two different films in a back-to-back feature.
Yeah, so before we dive into it, George, quick word on general housekeeping when it comes to doing the splits.
So we are film lovers, we are not experts, but we aim to entertain, we aim to throw in a little bit of trivia about these films that you may not have known. So we'll be going into detail on both these films from the very off, so there will be spoilers, and if you haven't seen these films, why are you listening to these podcasts?
Because they like our voices.
But of course
they see it as entertainment rather than an education of sorts.
This is probably not a family friendly show. There will be some colourful language, and there's more than likely to be some very bad impressions of Jean Claude Van Damme and other people that he is associated with.
Well, yeah, and the other thing I think is always worth pointing out is that the reason George and I do this podcast is that we're taking a trip down memory lane. These are the films of our youth, and we're remembering what we enjoyed back then. And I think it's worth pointing out with Bloodsport, I was 9 when I got into this film. So, I mean, I think I have carried over a lot of the things that I thought were funny when I was 9. So if it does come across as a little bit immature, we weren't 18 when we watched these 18 films. We were but I get the feeling now, looking back, that we were the target audience.
Yes.
We're targeting young kids who are going to raid their dad's video cabinets. That's almost the feeling you get, because it's laughably cheesy, and so many other things wrong with it.
But it's still got a lot of love, a lot of fond memories.
Yeah. So, we're going to start with Bloodsport, and then we're going to move on to Hard Target. There isn't actually. We're going to cover we go through the film, Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. George will start us off giving us a bit of the production background into who brought us these films and any challenges and anything else that was interesting going on behind the scenes. But I don't think there's going to be much coulda, woulda, shouldas when it comes to Bloodsport, because there really was only Jean Claude Van Damme.
It was a star vehicle.
Yeah. So young and so sexy in this film. Right, so without further ado, we're going to hop on a plane to Hong Kong, and then we're going to
find the kumite.
Kumite. So sit back, relax, in the splits, obviously, and enjoy this Jean Claude Van Damme episode. Take us away, George.
For centuries, the Society of the Black Dragon has sanctioned an ancient rite of combat known as the Kumite, open only to the world's most lethal warriors. It has never been won by a Westerner.
You are not Japanese. I can do it.
A forbidden competition where every fighting style, every worthy opponent, every deadly technique clash in savage combat, and only one will triumph. International martial arts sensation Jean Claude Van Damme in Bloodsport.
So, George, 1988, Bloodsport. I know Jean Claude Van Damme is obviously in this film, but who's the director? Because it's not that bad.
Directed by a guy called Newt Arnold. I haven't gone as far as researching his back history, but I'm pretty sure this is probably his biggest film.
And he's definitely a he, because obviously the only other Newt I know is in Aliens.
Yes,
that's a girl.
So yes, Newt Arnold. So it is based on some unverified claims by martial artist Frank Dukes, who was apparently in the army.
Still training the special forces to be ninjas, apparently. Well, anyone who believes him,
he was in the CIA, and he also was the first Western champion of this highly secretive fighting tournament known as the Kumite. That is basically like Fight Club. Nobody talks about it, so it's super secret. Yeah. That's why
the triads know about it.
But they're not willing to talk about it. The
police know about it. The military, the US military know about it.
Oh, in the film.
The film. But I think that should we get this elephant in the room? Let's talk about. I think it is a good place to start. Let's talk about Frank Dukes. So it's only until the end of the film that it says based on true events. Yeah.
So it doesn't say at the start based on a true story.
Yeah, it's like it hits you with that, that roundhouse at the end, that sucker punch.
Yeah.
Based on a true story. So, whoa, there's a real Frank Dukes. Now, as much as I can remember this, as I say, I was very young when I watched this. I really didn't care if it was true or not. But the story behind what has come out since is rather funny.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think again, it's a time before the internet where there wasn't that sort of rumour mill as easily accessible and easily consumable.
There's a lot of chatter.
So there was I think a New York Times or an LA Times article that came out a year or so after the film came out, basically uncovering Frank Dukes as a complete fraud. There's a quote from one of the co-writers, Sheldon Lettich, who said, so he's basically saying that he was kind of had an idea from the start. So he says, Frank told me a lot of tall tales, most of which turned out to be bullshit, but his stories about participating in the so-called Kumite sounded like a great idea for a film. He introduced me to another guy who had been at the Kumite called Richard Bender, and he swore everything that Frank told me was true. A few years later, this guy had a falling out with Frank and confessed to me that everything he told me about the Kumite was a complete lie. Frank had coached him what to say. So apparently Frank Dukes is the only person that has gone on record to talk about the Kumite. No one else has supported his claims. There's no other evidence.
He takes his bullshit very seriously, to the extent where he will coach someone to lie for him, to back up his true story.
And apparently going so far as buying trophies as well.
I like the story. There's another anecdote that came directly from the mouth of Dukes that was that he chatted during the making of it. Him and Van Damme had a falling out. So he alleges, is probably the best way to phrase that. He alleges that he challenges Van Damme. He's like, yeah, he makes his martial arts good for the film. He was a former dancer. We know these are true.
Yeah.
But he says, but he was not really a true fighter like myself. This is what Dukes comes out with. So I challenged him to a fight. We went onto the roof of a building, and when we got up there, I walked out onto a ledge that was only about 2 feet wide, and I jumped up in the end, did a roundhouse, and said, "Come on then." And Van Damme looked at me and told me I was crazy and walked away. So, I mean, that kind of gives you, I think, an insight into his struggle with fact and fiction.
Yes, indeed. So I think it's worth going into detail. So this was Van Damme's first major starring role, and producer Marc Desailles said they were looking for a new martial arts star who was a ladies' man. But the great thing about Van Damme is that he appeals to both men and women. He's an American hero who fights for justice the American way and kicks the stuffing out the bad guys.
Absolutely.
The most sort of interesting...
But he's French or Belgian, or what are they? They don't really explain that.
They say, I think his mother was or Canadian, maybe?
You have come to grow wine.
Yes,
I grow fish. We both grow children.
So this film was made, the production company or production studio is Cannon Films. So Cannon Films were a huge studio, and they also had cinemas in the 60s, 70s and 80s. They hit financial trouble by the end of the 70s and got bought out by two Israeli guys called Menahem Golan and Yoram Globus for $500,000. These two cousins were desperate to get into Hollywood, and they forced their business model was basically buying crap scripts and putting them into production with like minimal budget. So proper exploitation films. But they did well for themselves. They had a lot of success. So some of their biggest hits were the Death Wish sequels, and they launched the Delta Force films as well.
I think I've seen at least one of those.
But they were also responsible for igniting a worldwide ninja craze. So basically the 80s was massive for ninjas.
Death Stars, samurais.
Yeah, so the whole sort of making ninjas cool and popular. So there was an anthology series consisting of Enter the Ninja, Revenge of the Ninja.
Did they do American Ninja?
Yes, they did American Ninja with Michael Dudikoff as well. And Ninja 3, The Domination. There's actually a documentary about these two guys called Electric Boogaloo, the wild story of Cannon Films. So that looks like something we should check it out. So yeah, these guys, I mean, they were primarily known for B-movie sort of action exploitation films, but they did musicals, they did comedies. One of the musicals they did was Breaking 2, Electric Boogaloo, which was one of Van Damme's first film appearances. He appears as an extra dancing in the background of a scene, and it's available online, and you can see Van Damme is working really hard to get noticed.
I think you've shown this to me in the past.
Yeah. But interestingly, they were also responsible for making Andrei Konchalovsky's Runaway Train. Andrei Konchalovsky was the original director of Tango and Cash.
Ah, right, yeah, I remember his name.
Yeah, but some of their biggest hits, as I say, we've talked about the Delta Force series, but they also managed to pick up a few big properties towards the end of their tenure, one being Masters of the Universe, which is definitely a future retro ramble.
We are so going back to that film.
And I think one of the first films I saw at the cinema.
Yeah.
And another film, which I think probably the same year, Superman 4, The Quest for Peace.
Oh my God.
So both films are renowned for having quite a low budget and cutting a few corners. So yeah, these guys, I say, were the kings of sort of low budget. So this film had a budget of between $1.5 and $2 million, but it went on to gross $65 million. So that's pretty good for considering the size of the budget.
Yeah. What's it made in DVD,
well, that's
VHS and Blockbuster? The amount of people who rented that.
Exactly. And it turned pretty much the unknown Van Damme into a star overnight. And that's one of the things that I picked up on this film is how young and fresh he looks.
Oh God, he's so sexy.
So sexy.
When, speaking of dancers, because yeah, that is the thing that I heard about in terms of my contribution to the production chat, is that because I was intrigued I was like, I know this guy Dukes is a fraud, so I did do some checking up on him. And it was the fact they said, yeah, everybody who was in this film had to be able to take a punch. So, we only selected the hardest. Everyone in the film who appears fighting in the film is a martial artist. There were no stuntmen, so they're just martial artists or dancers.
Okay.
Because dancers can take a punch, right? Right. But yeah, speaking of dancing, At what point do we talk about the vests?
The vests?
Jean Claude Van Damme's amazing vests.
Well, there's some.
Is it a vest? Or is it a leotard? Is it a mantard? What is it?
There's some lovely fashion choices throughout this film that I'm sure we'll cover on.
There's definitely a progression of risque, and I just like to put a theory out there, and we will get to it because I'm sure one day we're mentioning a lot of films we're going to cover in the future, but one day I'm sure we're going to get to AWOL
and lots of leotards in that.
What the thing are you wearing in AWOL with the shorts and
basically a cycling bib?
Yeah, amazing. So
I think
so
that's
ahead
what
of its time.
I think that's what he wears in Breaking 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah,
maybe it's it was such a low budget film. Bring your own costume to work. But yeah, should we crack into the main review?
Yes, I mean, I love the intro to this film. I think, obviously, there's a lot of stock footage.
Well, it's...
second unit having
it's not one training montage, it's multiple training montages.
Yeah, but it's interspersed with them, brushing and setting up
getting the tournament ready.
Yeah, and that's what I like about it. It's like it's a very good economic exposition.
It's going around the world, seeing all the different people. And do we talk about the Monkey Man?
The Monkey Man, yeah.
It's not racist.
Not racist at all.
He's just a black guy that pretends and fights like a monkey.
Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking.
And smashes open coconuts.
Yeah, because it is kind of highly disrespectful. Are they suggesting that he's from Africa and that's the martial arts of Africa?
I think it's basically to give it a certain exoticism.
Yeah, and because they've got Hussein, who's clearly from the.
You mean the sleazy Arab?
Yeah, the United Emirates sort of Arab Emirates sort of
in terms of racial stereotyping, it's pretty awful.
Wide brush definitely being used.
So yeah, you've got all the different training montages of people around the world, but then it cuts to Frank Dukes just practicing on the what they call the punching bag. Is it a speedball or something?
When he's in the army,
he's just doing multiple roundhouses.
Yeah, as you do,
doing what he does best. Before, we just launch into flashback.
We're 4 minutes 28 seconds in when we launch into a 12-minute flashback.
It felt like the longest flashback ever.
There's so much happening in it.
There's so much happening. You basically get to see his whole life
from when he broke in.
Yeah, so he breaks in, and the guy playing young Frank Dukes is something special.
You didn't flinch. You have fighting spirit.
You're not gonna call the cops?
Not if we make a deal.
What kind of a deal?
And
what kind of deal?
Can I call him special? He seems a little bit slow.
I think he might be on a spectrum.
I don't know if it might just be a case of bad
ADR.
But he also it reminded me he looks nothing like Van Damme. He looks more like a young Adam Sandler.
Yeah, I know, but he does sound like him. I think he's hired because when he does the ADR work, he sounds a bit like a young Van Damme.
I think we're going to have to drop in some of his dialogue because it is just amazing.
Yeah. And then we've got that great chat between so obviously he's corrected and then he's caught, and then you have this brilliant chat between Shishodo, what's he called? The sensei?
Tanaka, isn't it?
Yeah, well, let's just call it, that's easier. Tanaka and obviously Frank Dukes' parents, and it's just that great chat of how he gets them. It's like your son needs science, and there's so much exposition.
Discipline.
Yeah.
But then we get some more casual racism because Frank Dukes is having us handed to him, and Tanaka's son says, "Why don't you just quit, Round Eye?"
I made a note of that as well. I like that because I don't know about anybody else, but that to me just sounds like that sounds like the type of racial slur that an American thinks that a Japanese person would level at a Caucasian.
But then we get a training montage within a flashback.
I wanted to point that out. I think this is one of 5 montages in this film.
And 10 flashbacks.
Yeah.
We get our first display of splits 11 minutes in.
Yeah. But it's a flashback splits. It's not the same as,
Yeah, but then there's that whole stretching scene.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why that's relevant. Why that's supposed to?
It's a thing.
It's just conditioning.
It's a thing. It's about. Apparently, Frank Dukes says that it's about that you can. It's about finding your inner center when you're surrounded by pain and you're being,
It's like meditation, yeah.
Yeah, but when you're being beaten and stretched, drawn and quartered, like that, and then you can find total consciousness, like Bill Murray says in Caddyshack.
And I'm pretty sure when he's being on the rack being stretched, he's having flashbacks within a flashback within a training montage.
I think that's how he finds his chi. Yeah,
is double flashback.
It is a flashback within a flashback.
You see, I think this this film has inspired Inception in many ways.
Yeah, dream within a dream, and you've got that great scene that. I always remember James Glendinning pointing out to me that when he's being hit with the staff and he's just doing all the meditative moves like that, not only can you see that he's wearing protective pads, you can hear them. Yeah. They haven't taken the mic out, so he's apparently being whacked with the bow staff, and he's trying to prove that he can take the pain. And you can see that you can hear him being hit. It's just a pad.
There's a bit where he's serving the tea blindfolded, but then just randomly attacked. It's a little bit like Clouseau and Cato. Always prepare. Always be ready for attack.
Yeah, and Tanaka's wife is so proud at that moment where he tries to chop his neck.
Yeah.
And he catches, and she's just like, oh, it's so nice.
But one of the reasons why we know it's a flashback, because one, someone has smudged a lot of Vaseline on the lens for that soft focus, but also they haven't let Van Damme, they've just blow dried his hair to make it look a bit bigger.
Yeah, they keep changing his hair in this to show like the passage of time, and also throughout this really brief 12-minute flashback, they keep going back to him. And it's just a picture of his face. It's like, no, we haven't left.
No.
It's like trying to bring you back. Yes, this is a long flashback, but we haven't actually left the first introductory scene of him going to visit sick Tanaka, who, I don't know why. I mean, this is one of the things I think I've carried over from being 10 or 11 watching this film, when he says, I have poured all my knowledge into you. I don't know, I just used to giggle when he said that.
What was he doing to him?
Anyway, flashback's over.
So
time to go to Hong Kong.
He goes to Hong Kong. Again, as you say, some stock footage. Then I think it cuts to... Actually, no, we were introduced that is it the military after him? And none other than Academy Award winner Forrest Whitaker is on the case.
The thing I like about that, I mean, I've won an Oscar, I've been in Star Wars.
I had to start somewhere.
No, but it's like, I won an Oscar, I've been in Star Wars, but I was in Bloodsport.
Got to start somewhere.
But
I worked with Van Damme.
But him and the other sidekick MP military police guy, if you watch this film, like, they're the only two people in this. I mean, obviously he's gone on to win Oscars, it's Forrest Whitaker. But they're the only two people who can actually act in this film.
Pretty much.
Like he's doing the calming, older guy, trying to calm.
They are definitely at a different level from anyone else in this film.
They've really prepared.
Yeah.
They know their lines, they've understood their characters.
They've got good comic timing.
Yeah. So and it keeps cutting back to them. And they will obviously, they will feature later on. We'll get to the whole thing when they actually catch up with Frank Dukes. But before that, I was trying to work out, I want to put a theory to you, like in terms of guarding the cost of this. I have a theory that this entire film was filmed in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
sure.
I mean, like the whole military thing. He doesn't go when he says he go to Hong Kong. Because when I was younger, I used to think that he was actually he was in the army in the States.
Nearby.
And he actually lived. That the whole backstory, the whole flashback, was actually taking place in the US, and I think it's because his mates are. Yeah. That's what's confusing. So in the first flashback, when he's like, you want to hang out with us, you're going to have to steal the samurai sword, god damn it.
Yeah.
And his mates are American, so you get the impression that this is happening in America.
Either that or it's military base. Oh no, because his parents aren't military.
His parents have moved there to grow wine. He doesn't even say wine, he says wineyards.
Wineyards.
He says wineyards, which I love.
I mean, you'd think with an 11-minute flashback, you'd get your story right, really.
Yeah, I think it's about 12 and a half minutes. But so anyway, it only occurred to me watching it, and something always does creep out at you when you go back and visit. I was like, this is all filmed there. Like, everything just looks tropical and,
So. And for a highly secretive tournament, all the fighters are staying in the same hotel.
Keep it under the nose. And they all know what's going on. And how does the reporter hear about it? Super secret.
Yeah. But they've got a rep of sorts. Well,
He's been sent from the IFAA, which I can only understand is the International Federation of something arts.
Fighty arts.
Is of artisanal art. I mean, we could look it up, but so could you.
Fair point. So we get to meet Jackson.
Comedy relief.
Jackson is brilliant in this. I mean,
he's having fun.
He's having a lot of fun.
Somebody paid for a flight ticket to Hong Kong, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, I don't think I remember him from anything else in particular, but he's one of the highlights in this, I'd say. He's
also does some useful exposition for the audience.
Yeah, he is definitely, our eyes.
You like this kind of fighting, huh?
Yeah.
You want to see some real fighting, you can see me fight at the Kumite.
I'm here too for the Kumite.
Aren't you a little young for full contact?
Aren't you a little old for video games?
So yeah, we get the first. Yeah, you Frank Dukes. You Frank Dukes. No, that's Dukes. put up your Dukes.
Yeah, and he takes him to the dojo or to the Kumite.
Yeah, and the most evil corridor. They seem to be walking down that corridor for about 3 minutes.
Yeah, it's like trying to say that it's like in the dark underworld. And then they meet that really nice guy that we love. Okay, USA.
And even Jackson's pissing himself at that.
Yeah,
I mean, that is one of the best quotes in that.
Show us.
We need to know how hard Frank Dukes really is.
You want to see my invitation?
Yeah, where's your invitation? I just love it. It's like, you can't be Tanaka's student. Only Tanaka's student. Even though we've never seen anything like this. Show us death touch.
Yeah. Show us the DMAC.
Which is complete bollocks.
Yeah. I was trying to work out the physics of that.
Of actually how they actually did the stunt.
No, but you can tell from the camera that, yes, he hits the bricks and then there's an explosion. But it's like
explodes outwards.
It's out of shot. But yeah, it's one of those things. I'm sure it is possible, but I prefer Jackson's approach.
We're just headbutting.
Just headbutting the brick.
And I've just got my notes after this. How high are Van Damme's trousers?
Well, yeah, we went to see Roadhouse the other night. And
yes, we did.
We were impressed at the altitude of Patrick Swayze's trousers. Wow.
Yes, it was definitely, probably around the same time. But
maybe there was
high waists were definitely in.
Somebody tell that to Simon Cowell.
Yeah, but very tight as well. As you say, there's that contrast of tight trousers but flowing shirts.
Flowing shirts.
We get to meet the first glimpse of the villain, Chong Li.
Chong Li.
So
the reigning champion.
Chong Li is played by a guy called Bolo Young, who studied under Bruce Lee.
Yep.
And actually appeared in, I think he fought Bruce Lee in Enter the Dragon.
Yeah.
But he's also appeared in...
He's not as big, by the way, in Enter the Dragon because he gets into weightlifting in between.
Oh, no, I looked up his biography on IMDb and it says, known for his overly large pecs.
I mean, you notice he does what I call the Homer Simpson. The Homer Simpson pec dance.
I was a little bit mesmerised by the size of his pecs.
But apparently they say he was the biggest gentle giant. They say he was a totally nice guy, had his son on set, and like any downtime he was just playing with him. Whereas he looks like
he does evil very good.
Very good evil. And deranged when he's fighting. He just looks like
rabid.
Yeah.
Especially lines with very good, but bricks don't hit back.
Yeah. And a lot of like menacing use of waving his arms and putting the finger across his neck.
So yeah, then we're back in the reception where the hotel bar where all these fighters are.
We get to see the coin trick.
Are milling around because you've got the hot reporter who's just give me a break. I'm just after the story, and the sleazy Arabs want to take her back to her room.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, just wow. It does show how far things have come since 1988 in terms of the treatment of women, even though there's still a long way to go. But yeah, so you've got that coin trick.
So the coin trick, he replaces the coin, doesn't he?
Yeah, he takes because the bet is that I will take that coin, and not only he goes one step further, and that is apparently a hybrid of a magic trick that Bruce Lee used to do, which was he used to put it in your other hand. And he actually did it, and people saw it in real life, whereas I think I'm kind of guessing there was some camera trickery in this.
I'm pretty sure Frank Dux did it.
Yeah, well, I mean,
sorry, Dukes.
That's Dukes. What can he not do? Then, and obviously, we've got some hilarious ADR coming from that Hussein bloke.
Oh,
She's coming with me upstairs.
No, I'm not.
If we have to fight for her, then both of us would be thrown out of the committee. We could arrange this another way. Do you gamble?
What is bet?
And, I mean, the lines are bad, and the ADR is bad.
Oh, it's like they haven't even tried.
Yeah, I mean, it's so
close enough.
Yeah, so lazy. So, yeah, we're getting introduced. Then there's the introduction to the kumite. It actually starts, because when they go in there, they're just going there to register. And the entire introduction is done in English.
Yes, I noticed that as well.
I mean, that would have been, I think, they could have got away with doing the rest of this film in English and only having that bit in the local language.
Cantonese.
Yeah, Cantonese. Thank you, brother. But yeah, it just kind of sticks out now, looking back at it. It's just like, well, that's, I guess, just for the audience.
And I think there's, as Peter Griffin points out, when they refer to the title of the film in a bit of dialogue, and I think there's the line, "That's why they call it Bloodsport." Yeah, and there's obviously some world records being. We get to see each of the main characters have a fight. So we get to see Chung-Li, we get to see Jackson do whatever fighting style he has, which is just headbutting people.
Yeah, and just
and saying, "Yeah, come on!"
Yeah, and then it's almost time for a montage. I think a fight montage, isn't it?
Fight montage. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, there's some world records broken. Chun-Li breaks the record 14 seconds, and then Van Damme.
I'm pretty sure Chung-Li fights a guy that looks like Bruce Lee, and I'm pretty sure that's intentional.
Yeah, you think?
He's like black and yellow.
And his fighting style is as well, yeah.
Got the montage, which Monkey Man reappears, slapping his head, flipping around.
It's like, how else can we make this film feel longer than it really is? There's so much padding in this film.
You've also got, I think it's the legendary Stan Bush and his song, Kumite, Kumite, Kum. I think Fight to Survive is the title of that track.
Oh, what a soundtrack. I mean, can we talk about the music now? Because I do like it. There's that, when he's doing in the first flashback, there's that sort of build-up music, and it's it's a nice sort of Cantonese sort of vibe going.
Flutes.
Yeah, the flutes.
Pan pipes.
Yeah, pan pipes. Yeah, the music's good, and then obviously rock, because it's the 80s and it's America.
Pop rock. But then the military police finally catch up with Frank Dux, and one of my favourite lines from Jackson, "I ain't your pal, dickface."
And then what proceeds when he pretends he's going to go with them is we have the gayest chase scene ever see. Yeah. I mean, the music.
I've got in my notes here, Van Damme, let's get silly. Because it's got awful, 80s pop music on it. I think they've told him this is the chance to show off his comedy side, his playful side. So yeah, there's lots of him doing laps around the buses. The guys and doesn't
he stop at one point? It's sort of stopping and looking. It's like, I can do comedy.
I'm so playful, right?
Yeah,
guys. People need to see my funny side.
Yeah.
And the military police guys are just useless.
Yeah, I mean, they've proven they can act, but they can't run. They can't jog.
They definitely can't run. So yes, that's hilarious bit of comedy with both guys ending up in the river.
And then we changed the lenses on the camera because we're going to need some soft focus because it's sexy time.
Yes, some unnecessary butt shot. So even though it's the 80s, renowned for, the era of tits and ass.
Yeah. The only ass we get to see in this film is JCVD.
Is Van Damme's. I mean, what an ass. What an ass. The tender moment of love. As Van Damme puts on his maroon pants, but then she's trying to get Frank Dux to get her into the kumite undercover, but she manages to go with the betting guy.
I thought he was the bad guy from License to Kill,
but he's brilliant. I love that guy.
Yeah.
But she goes to Frank Dux. She says she's dressed up like a pro, and she goes, "Don't worry, this isn't the first time I've gone undercover."
And then she winks. She's
you are whoring yourself out.
Yeah. And then we have another fight montage because we're not ready for the final fight.
There's a fight montage, but she's gone totally undercover. But you see the point where she gets out her massive tape recorder to take notes to herself. Yes, they are fighting this way.
Yeah, and maybe just like it's so obvious, you know, her reaction to all of that. But I'd say her client, whatever you want to call him.
Gambling man, I've got him down as.
He's fine with all of it. You know, he's throwing money at it, and then
so you got you got Van Damme fighting the big sumo guy.
Yeah,
and he's trying everything, and he's just not getting anywhere. What does he have to do? Splits punch
in the nuts. A wedgie splits. Yeah,
nut shot. Which I'll probably.
You're going to show me that now?
I'm going to show you.
Is this going to hurt?
No, but I mean, it's probably common knowledge to a lot of people. But Mortal Kombat took a lot of inspiration from this film. The makers openly said
Johnny Cage,
and obviously Johnny Cage
is lifted.
Is Van Damme in all that, and his signature move is doing the splits punch.
Yeah, whoopsie.
So yeah, there's a little bit of nugget of trivia there. So after the splits punch, we have Jackson versus Chong Li. Some real dramatic tension.
And it's the penny drops. We have an emotional connection with Jackson. We like him. JCVD likes him. We're not sure where this is going, but the friendship doesn't even have a chance to blossom outside of the Kumite, does it?
Well, Jackson appears to be a bit of an idiot. He hits Chong Li once and then starts celebrating and turns his back on him. Foolish. But also, because of this tragedy of Chong Li turning the tables and beating the shit out of Jackson, gives JCVD the chance to go, no!
Which he has to do at least once. Stakes have been raised.
Yeah, and Chong Li does this super evil of just flexing and fist pumping.
And this is the bit where he just looks deranged and rabid and hungry for blood. Now, remind me, George, and this is the bit the police are, the MPs
are
supporting him. OK USA.
Yeah, they realise
they're protecting their quarry, aren't they?
I suppose so. So this leads into another, what I've put in my notes as reflection montage.
Yeah.
Some more sad music, so Van Damme's just trying to work out what he's got to do, and he gets on the bus and he's looking out the window. But in the reflection, it's Chong Li. But it's not Chong Li. It was all a dream.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's very moving.
Some more flashbacks, I think, to his training and to Jackson getting beaten up. So, flashback from minutes earlier.
But it's not the last flashback we're going to see.
Oh, God, no. God, no. But then we get, in terms of, like, this film doesn't have amazing cinematography, but there's a brilliant shot of him getting ready for the fight where overlooking the whole of Hong Kong, and Van Damme is just doing the splits on the edge of a precipice, and it looks awesome.
It does look awesome.
It's a great shot.
That was actually lifted in some computer game that I had on the Commodore Amiga. Which was the him in the sunset doing those sort of moves.
Yeah. Oh no, you're getting confused with Kickboxer when they're doing.
How could I possibly get confused with Kickboxer?
I mean, they're completely different films, Charlie.
You're probably right.
But yeah, him doing the training against the sunset was off a fighting game.
But when you look for this film, you will see that shot of him warming up before the final.
Yes.
Kumite.
But yeah, we're back at the Kumite, and the gambling guy comes up to him. Hey, Dukes, I've got money riding on you.
Yeah. And she's back. There's been a night passing, so she's
still.
We're pretty much sure
undercover.
There has been a transaction in order to hold on to her client. The things she will do for a story.
Because that's it. He's almost.
He seems happier, the gambling guy.
No, he's almost late for the thing, and the gambling guy's going to pay off the judge as he shoves the money in, and then Dukes turns up and he takes the money away. He's like,
there is some little
a few more minutes.
There are some good little, and also the bit where the guy's tooth gets knocked out earlier in the film.
I think that's some more casual racism. These guys will do anything.
Thieving Asian guy.
Yeah. Oh, the cleaner. Leave it up to him. Look at him.
It looks funny.
Just checking nobody's looking and steal that gold tooth.
I can remember giggling at that. So, it's all come to this. All of these flashbacks have brought us to an opportunity to have some more flashbacks.
Well, no, so Chong Li kills a guy, right?
Yeah. Right.
Killed a guy. And the judges turn their backs on him, and this just reminded me of the Mighty Boosh, where the magical council, dung, 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 dung.
We're going to have to turn our backs on you.
Yeah. No.
Don't give me. I'm going to have to give you the cold shoulder.
No. But now we're down to the final fight.
Yeah. It's come to this.
Dukes versus Chong Li.
Not just Dukes, it's Dukes and Tanaka, because he's using all of the goodness that Tanaka poured into him.
From a very young age.
He will be fighting with him.
Put inside him.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think it's a fairly even-handed fight.
I enjoy the fight. I enjoy actually a lot of the fights in this because they do
some
look
great choreography.
They do look realistic, until the kind of killer blows sort of thing. But there's some great. The only thing is that he says at the start is like, open your mind and
He's not Quaid. Open your mind, start the reactor. It's not Quado.
No, he's not. No, but when they're having that chat, is it in the church or when Tanaka's son's died? And he's like, you taught me to use a mixture of styles. I'm like, does he really use anything apart from roundhouses at the end?
No.
He does some nice chops and stuff, but no, I do like the choreography in this is good, and the fight between them is good. But of course, if it's going to be an American guy and he's going to win an American way, the other guy's got to be cheating.
So yes, he crushes up some Alka-Seltzer.
Right.
Throws it in his eyes, and well, I just hope that Van Damme's done some blindfold training somewhere.
Well, I mean, how are we going to be sure that he ever has, George? How would we be able to
I don't remember from 45 minutes previous. I think I need another reminder.
I think it's time for a flashback
of Tanaka attacking by surprise.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've got him fighting blinded, and there's some brilliant Van Damme acting of him really. And I think there's a great meme on the internet of just Van Damme screaming. Looking blind. The poor the
ref.
The ref gets chucked in there.
He's wearing a nice silk kimono, so he's easily identified.
But Van Damme's just trying to protect him.
Yeah, exactly. Or just to know where he is. And then I don't know how is he going to take him out? What sort of move?
Not one.
Yeah.
Not two. Not even three, but 4 roundhouses.
4 roundhouses, and I think we actually get to see the final one from 3 different angles, so technically it looks like he's been hit 7 times. No, it's quality.
So yeah, he's won the Kumite.
Just like Frank Dukes. Just like the real life Frank Dukes did.
Exactly like Frank Dukes. But he goes to check in on Jackson, and I'm pretty sure they declare their love for each other.
Yeah, I love you, bro. I thought Jackson was dead.
So did I.
Yeah.
I mean,
I thought that was kind of the whole plot point was that he's dead.
No, but we're probably getting... Oh no, he doesn't die. I was going to say, because that's what happens in kickboxer. No, his brother just gets paralyzed.
Yeah.
In kickboxer.
We've got to raise the stakes, but just not too far.
Not too far.
There's going to be some young 10-year-olds watching this 18. We can't go too far.
Exactly. No, I think, maybe selective memory. I was pretty sure that Jackson died, but he's just got some... your friend has a very hard head.
Yeah. And
we'll explain that away with some dialogue.
And the army forget everything. Everything's forgiven. Forrest Whitaker's happy.
Just get on the plane, friend.
And Forrest Whitaker, Forrest Whitaker and Jean Claude Van Damme, which one of them's going to win an Oscar?
Exactly.
Would you have known back in 1988?
And then the Ho reporter turns up at the plane.
Oh my God!
Just to do the bow, to him.
The fist bow, and it's like, yeah.
And then we get hit with some Frank Dukes stats.
Yeah.
Fastest knockout, fastest punch,
fastest roundhouse, spinning kick. Sorry.
Fastest lie.
Yeah.
So yeah, true story, bro.
Yeah, man. You heard it here first. So that was
Bloodsport.
And what a film it was. I enjoy it. I've got a lot of time for that film. It's fun. It's a lot of memories for us.
Oh yeah, I mean, I remember we did watch this a lot at our friend Sir Glendinnings's, and deservedly so. I mean, it's an hour and a half. As you say, it's got some great fight choreography in it,
and our parents wouldn't mind it because there's no real. I mean, obviously there's swearing.
There's
not
one
really
bit
that
of
much gore
where the guy's leg's broken.
Yeah, but
it's pretty...
I think on the versions we had probably had taped off TV, it probably wasn't in
Probably
that.
cut out.
Yeah.
It's got a great soundtrack at times, and it's a lot of fun. If I had to decide between this and Kickbox, I really don't know. I mean, this doesn't have sexy dancing in it.
No, I think because I did have that conversation with my side.
With yourself.
With myself, probably whilst holding a DVD of each in one hand.
Whilst having a flashback montage to when the first time you watched those films.
But yeah, no.
Whilst on a bus.
Yeah, for me, Kickboxer, I don't know, I think the... Production values?
Production values. I was going to say cinematography.
I don't know why, but I mean, I love Bloodsport, but but
Kickboxer has the whole thing with the glass and the bandages and...
Whereas this does...
I want Dong Bo!
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, that's my really bad Van Damme impression.
We'll edit it out. But you've also got the backstory with his brother, and the story is interesting, and it is very much a man. He seems more vulnerable in Kickboxer, and you see that he's gone further. Whereas in this, when he first turns up, he's like does the dim mac, breaks the world record.
There's no real threat.
No, exactly.
Like he basically aces all of his fights, apart from the big sumo guy that he has to do the nut punch to.
Yeah, and you kind of think it, but I can remember thinking that the only tension was the size of Chong Li's pecs. How are you going to get around those bad boys?
They are pretty big.
So that was Bloodsport, and now we're going to be moving on and having a chat about Hard Target.
In a darker side of Dixie, away from the music and the lights, there's a new game in town.
You'll be provided with a guide, trackers, and the weapons of your choice.
I need to file a missing person report.
The competitors are deadly.
We pride ourselves in hunting only combat veterans, men who have the necessary skills to make our hunts more interesting.
And they always win.
You want to find your father, get somebody who knows the city to show you around.
Now, the opposition is about to get one last chance.
What kind of a name is Chance?
My mama took one.
Jean Claude Van Damme is the hard target.
You miss me?
From internationally acclaimed action director John Woo.
How's it feel to be hunted?
You tell me.
Hard Target.
And so now we turn our attention to the 1993 film by John Woo, Hard Target.
Hard Target.
Release saxophone!
So, as I said in the intro, this is a John Woo film. John Woo was a renowned Hong Kong action director, and apologies if I'm recovering ground that we covered in Face Off. But yeah, he was a big action director in Hong Kong, was very sort of highly revered, had some really successful action films. So The Killer, Better Tomorrow, Hard Boiled were some of his biggest hits. And when somebody becomes, from a foreign land, becomes successful in film, Hollywood comes a knocking.
Yeah.
So yeah, lots of studios were keen to get him on board. And funnily enough, the first script he was offered, which he turned down, was actually Face Off, because at that time it was a science fiction movie.
I'm not ready for the whole robots and...
I'm just not ready for it yet.
Set in the future, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yes, so Face Off at that time was a science fiction film, and it didn't interest him. But Universal had a script called Hard Target, and they brought him on board. But at the same time, even though they were really excited to have John Woo on board, and they'd already had Van Damme was in place, because Van Damme by this stage was a big star, big action star. Universal even said, we're in the business of making Van Damme pictures. And even though, Universal were happy that they've got this, revered action director on board, they were afraid his English might be a problem on set. And I don't know if you noticed in the actual credits, but it's executively produced by Sam Raimi.
Spider-Man 2. And obviously all the horrors he did.
Yeah, so the Evil Dead films, the original Spider-Man trilogy with Tobey Maguire, so they actually hired Sam Raimi to oversee the entire shoot and replace John Woo if need be. But Sam Raimi was like, no, guy's doing a brilliant job. And he, despite his limited English, all the stories from the crew since are saying, he was a pure gentleman. He was
a real gentleman,
real gentleman, and he was really respected. And I think it's even Lance Henrikson. So Lance Henrikson plays the villain in this film, and Lance Henrikson is a great sort of B-movie actor. He's in Terminator. He's in Aliens.
Bishop in Aliens, yeah.
Bishop in Aliens. He's also in Alien vs Predator, but
let's not talk about that.
But yeah, Lance Henrikson said it quickly became, instead of it being a Jean Claude Van Damme movie, it became a John Woo movie on set because everyone was so in awe of this of
the way he worked.
Yeah, of the way he worked, of his style. So the story is written by Chuck Farrer, and it's actually based on an old short story called The Most Dangerous Game.
Okay.
So about big game hunters hunting men. The script had been knocking around for a while, and when Van Damme came on board, Chuck Farrer had to work out, why the hell have we got a Frenchman? So the reason it's set in New Orleans is to explain the Frenchie.
Yeah.
/ Belgium.
Music soundtrack by Kodo. But the way it's written, it's like it's like it's sold to you as if Kodo, right? Right. He's big in America, right? Wrong.
The music in this film is awful. Apparently, John Woo. Again, we talked about this on Mission Impossible 2. That he has, his original cuts are quite long. So his original cut was over 2 hours. This film, I think, clocks in at an hour and a half.
Barely,
and focused a lot more on Fouchon, which is the Lance Henrikson character. But apparently Van Damme and his own editor locked themselves in an editing room for 2 days, re-edited the film for the producer. Van Damme stated that moviegoers were paying to see a Van Damme movie, not a Lance Henrikson film. Ego.
Well, yeah, ego massively. But I mean, we're going to get to it. But I'm just going to put it out there. Your feelings on Lance Henrikson in general. I mean, we're in the movie, aren't we? Or we're going to dive in. Have you got any more production chat you want to cover?
No. It's very brief. I mean, I say we've talked about John Woo. At this time, 1993, Van Damme is, he's got a few hits under his belt. He's pretty much sort of, this is his...
bankable.
Yeah, he's a bankable action star, and that's why, it was keen that Universal were keen to keep a hold of him. I think this is a year before Universal Soldier, which I'd say is probably peak Van Damme in terms of his career. And box
in terms
office.
of what he would have got paid and what the box office would have made, definitely.
That's the production chat for me, quite a brief one.
I don't know when we get around to it, but because I just felt by the end of this film, so hammy. He's actually good, and he's quite menacing, but it's that final act.
He gets angry and angrier.
And he doesn't do angry very convincingly, I don't think.
No, I really like Lance Henrikson.
Yeah, me too.
I think he's better, toning it down as a sort of seething menace rather than hammy.
But like in Aliens, as Bishop, you really feel for him, and he's a cyborg. I developed feelings for a machine. but I mean, he really, I love him in that role, and in Terminator as the cop.
And he's really good in Near Dark, which is a vampire movie by Catherine Bigelow.
Watched that. I've got it. It's still in its cellophane. I need to. I've just been really busy.
I haven't watched it for a few years, but he's really good in that.
But I just feel in this film he
loses it towards the end.
At the end it's turned up to 11, and to be fair,
I'd say it's more like 15.
Obviously we are revisiting the films of our youth, and obviously been a while since I've watched this film, but the first thing that knocked me over was like, what the fuck, Jean Claude Van Damme is a homeless guy? Because that didn't register. I don't know why. Back then you had I think when we first watched this film, we didn't really have a lot of concept on the fact that he could, what the implications of him not being able to pay for a square meal were, and going down to the docks to get a job.
Well, that's it. I mean, I just at that time I just saw it. I mean, I was 10 when this came out, and I just remember getting out on video and just like, it's another Van Damme movie. And it's funny that obviously didn't even now everyone looks on it as John Woo's first American film, rather than it being an out-and-out Van Damme picture.
And that's right, because it's done more for Woo than it probably did for Van Damme.
Yeah.
And I prefer the Woo of it than the Van Damme of it, in parts.
Indeed. I mean, from the very off, it's pure Woo. So it opens with a hunt in progress, and you've got the guy's point of view. He's going from door to door. Help me.
Why won't the people help him?
Because he's a hobo. But you've got so much slow-mo. Again...
Not just that, we're barely 4 minutes in, and we've seen that rotating
spinning
arrow effect 10 times, like from different directions. I mean, it's slightly overused. I mean, obviously, he falls in love with an effect, John Woo, doesn't he? He's been known to. Show it again. Slow it down.
Yeah, lots of spinning arrows.
And lots of weird slow-mo. There's not like full slow-mo. There's like just and there's still. It's like it's a freeze frame.
Yeah, no. There's slow-mo transition between scenes that doesn't need to be. It's almost like needs more slow-mo. More slow-mo. After that sort of opening dramatic scene, we get to see Van Damme. Well, first we get to see his glistening mullets.
And so, George, I think first question is are they extensions or is it his real hair?
It's his real hair.
Amazing.
Because there's a picture, I was doing my research, and there's a picture of him at the Cannes Film Festival the same year, and it's not greasy, it's like full, like blow-dried mullet. It's massive.
It's like the Kurzad.
It's worse than Kurzad. It's huge. But yeah, I think we need to sort of have a disclaimer. There's going to be a lot of mullet chat. I mean, if you listen to our Con Air episode, we talked about Nick Cage's greasy mullet. I think this is king of the mullets.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely
proper business at the front, party at the back.
But I just wanted to verify that it was natural, because if you turn around and said actually it was,
you can't have
you can't fake that stuff.
You can't keep a wig that greasy.
I mean, it's amazing. I mean, it's flowing, and
he's also got the earring as well.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's mesmerizing. It's like, and he's got the trench coat. He's still got the high trousers. Even though he can't afford a square meal, he can damn right afford a belt and some trousers. And there's that bit, I don't want to be jumping forward too much, but the bit where he first squares off, where there's the first skirmish, as it were, with the locals, he does this thing where he moves
the coat
He
back.
moves the coat out of the way and like, has he got a gun? My legs are my weapons.
He's cocked his legs.
I love that. And once again, I mean, we fast forwarded from, because we just did Bloodsport 1988. We fast forwarded 5 years, 1993. We're still in AD RRR.
Oh, there's
some really bad ADR going on.
I'm pretty sure as well. It's like, is he upping the accent? It seems really thickly.
About your daddy.
You daddy.
Your papa.
I got really a little bit comfortable about how everyone referred to that girl's as not your father. It's everyone's like
your daddy,
and even the cop's like when we found your daddy.
Yeah,
it's like why stop calling him daddy.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, there's some,
so this is at an earlier time. This is something that you and I have talked about in the past, that in the 80s and to
early 90s, the hangover from the 80s,
there was, when it came to leading ladies, they were proper women. They were usually in their sort of, late 20s, early 30s. They weren't sort of these, teenage, like Megan Fox types.
They were established women. I think that was the 80s and 90s. They were, I mean, we'd just been to see Roadhouse, and it was the same in that. They were beautiful ladies, but who were not, it wasn't just all youth. It was actually more convincing. It was like, they had more of a story going on.
And the girl in this is supposed to be the daughter of the guy at the start, and they look about the same age.
Yeah, there's not, it's really...
She's definitely sort of late 20s.
Yeah.
And the dad... That would
barely 40s, yeah.
Barely 40s, if that.
Well, also, if you work out the timeline, which is really confusing, because which war were these guys? These guys were in Nam, right?
Oh, God knows, yeah.
It's all over the show, because if these guys were in Nam, they'd be like 60 in the 90s, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I think so.
So, yeah, and he does not look 60.
No, maybe 50s, but yeah.
So she turns up, but it's funny what you don't remember about this film. I don't remember about the cops being on strike, and I didn't remember about what terrible tourist video this is for New Orleans.
Oh God! I mean, it really...
Don't go to New Orleans. You will be robbed or hunted.
It's overrun by homeless people. The cops are useless.
Cops don't work.
The music is basically it's like porn music. Not that I've ever watched porn.
It's like porn. It's what people consider to be porn music.
But I also love the fact that even though Van Damme is homeless, everyone seems to know that he's shipping out.
Well, George, I'm sorry, but how do you know he's an able seaman? Because he's making knots. He's making knots while we're looking out at the seagulls. He's having a moment, but that's the sort of like, yes, so I think to get my character across, I think we need to sell the idea that I'm an able seaman. He was in the Merchant Navy, goddammit.
Yes, and I say he's really he's working out the accent, and he's like smarter, not harder.
Yeah, his accent is, you wonder what's happened with the accent. Somebody's obviously said to him,
more enunciate, boy.
I don't know if it's that, or I don't know if he's actually had a word with himself. It's new because
is he going for the sort of Louisiana French?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think he's actually saying, no, I need to drop my. I'm not a French, because there's many different types of French accents of people living in the US, and he's like, this is an entirely different. This is an entirely different version of French that I'm channeling for this character, because obviously he's a well-established actor by this point, and I think I'm not just a guy who does roundhouses. Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, maybe I am. As you said, we get the proper exposition dump by the bad guys.
Yeah.
In terms of, he was in the military for roundhouses and
Where do
stuff.
they get these military, what they call the jackets, the files?
What's it?
Who's got them? There was no internet. It's like, I pulled his file.
Yes, you've got the very evil South African.
I love this guy, Voslo. He actually was...
Arnold Vosloo, I think.
Vosloo. I love this guy. He was, and it's kind of hit his stride. He was in the...
He's in the Brendan Fraser, he's the Mummy in the Mummy films.
Yeah, and he was also he's a very good bad guy, very convincing, but very thespian, and he's in... the most recent season of my favourite cop show, Bosch, but he was in the one before, which involves the movie director who Bosch is investigating, but he's his fixer in that, and obviously he's much older, you know, like 20 years or whatever has passed, and he's great in that. He's like, he's just a very good rival to Harry Bosch, and it was interesting seeing in this because obviously I think he's very good in this.
He does
good number two.
he does good bad guy. He does good sort of sinister, and he has.
John Woo obviously liked him because he gives him a lot of time and he gives him a lot of slow-mo.
And him and Lance Henrikson play off each other quite well as well. We get our first moment of John Wooism. We get the first moment of doves.
Yeah.
And the doves show Van Damme the way.
I was going to point that out. It's like the doves crack the case.
Detective doves.
Detective dove reporting for duty.
What's that? Dog tags, you say?
What's that? A crossbow?
Crossbow.
Why didn't I think of that? Okay, get back in the car, Dove.
Exactly, there's only one dog tag.
Yeah.
They come in two.
Sorry, he's called Chance. He's called Chance Boudreaux. What a name, Chance.
Cracking name. And then we get some more sort of exposition all about the hunt of that guy.
Is that when we didn't realise that Lance Henrikson was just such an amazing pianist?
No, but this is what I've got. Henrikson playing the piano aggressively while looking at himself in the mirror.
I thought
getting angrier and angrier.
There is something about him in this film because it's interesting when...
I don't know if you know, John, but I can play the piano.
But it's not just that, it's the fact that he is so angry in this, and it's not explained. It's not explained.
Just imagine Woo off camera going, look angrier, Lance, look angrier.
But I think there's obviously, they've got so much respect for him, and this was his breakout film, and obviously Woo was thinking, I have to do something different. I'm working with American actors, an American set, and all of this, and this is my big opportunity. And he wowed them, and obviously I think during the course of making this film, as you've said, he obviously thought, what the real story is here? It's Lance's story, and that's why it's almost this character feels underdeveloped, because that scene where he's like hammering the piano and just looking at himself like, I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah.
And also the fact that he's got a mirror installed in front of his piano so he can
can work on his piano skills.
Yeah, work on his grimace while he's hitting the keys.
Maybe he's practicing for a public performance. Who knows?
And then it's impressive. But anyway, newsflash. Telex. Just got this over the telex. Whoever, not who still uses a telex. Whoever used a telex apart from financial companies.
What's the part with the telex? Remind me. I've watched this film literally a few days ago.
It's the bit when they're in the mansion, and I think it's the contract. It's basically like they've just emailed confirmation. I think they confirmed they closed the deal on that guy, on the useless hunt guy. Yeah, they confirmed the hunt on that useless guy, and it comes in over the telex.
Your money has been transferred.
Yeah, you keffer.
So yeah, that's it. There's a lot that I haven't watched this film in years. I remember it being lots of fun.
It's slow.
But it's a good... apart from that opening hunt at the start, it's about...
And then there's that little skirmish that I was talking about where Van Damme meets the girl.
He roundhouses all those guys.
That is what John Woo is amazing at. I mean, that's a great bit of choreography with the ball, and if you watch it all, and the fact that... with the roundhouse taking the guy's legs, and
then he throws another guy into the guy. That is a good bit of action. But apart from those two brief glimpses, it's like 45 minutes before this film actually kicks into gear, and you've got his Vietnam vet friend who gets nominated for the hunt, and turns the tables.
Yeah. I mean that is a great little thing, because that guy is like, you can see, I'm annoyed about it. Lance is obviously angry about how useless this guy is taking his money, and that's why we take the money up front, motherfucker.
The thing I love about this film is its subtle sort of statement on the homelessness crisis, because the guy's running, please help me, please get away from me, you bum. And he's clearly bleeding, needing help, but everyone's like, don't touch me.
What I couldn't get over about this film is how bad New Orleans is sold as. And you go back to that initial skirmish, she shows her wallet, the four guys walk out, and then they take her bag, and basically when Van Damme turns up, they've got her bent over the car. It's broad daylight, and you're just like, what are you insinuating? That they were just going to go and, I just think the New Orleans tourist board would not be happy about it.
Definitely would not be happy.
So we have the failed hunt where that guy shows that he's got the credentials.
Yeah, he's got the credentials, but then... all subtlety goes out the window when they just gun him down in the middle of a busy street.
Yeah, nobody cares.
No, but I just thought it was in terms of, it's a very secret operation, and that's why we pay this money. This is just kill him, just get rid of him, kill him in the middle of the street. And
it's a good death. It is an honourable death. He stands up to them.
Then, it kicks in a gear because you've got they're cleaning up their loose ends. They want to get rid of that sleazy guy. And I've just got down the scene as street ambush, and that's just when all shit just goes south. They just start shooting everything and everyone.
Oh no, but also in the course of all of this, the actress who gets the worst actor, the cop, detective,
the one cop in New Orleans,
who is really struggling with the 5 lines that she has. I mean, I was watching this going, this is just terrible. So yeah, she gets taken, but Van Damme has gone from being a bum to basically running the case.
Yeah.
There's him, there's this terrible cop who... Detective Dove's doing a better job than this terrible cop.
I'm waiting for a Detective Dove spin-off.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming. You know the Doves are coming back later on in this film. As we've said before, the henchman, I can't remember his name, but the actor, Vosloo...
He's called Van Cleef.
Van Cleef, that's it.
Because it's after Lee Van Cleef.
So he's having a great time. And then... unbeknownst to us, is that Jean Claude Van Damme on the bike?
Oh.
I thought his hair was a light brown. Not a dark brown.
I don't remember him being that tall either.
We've got the Joker's stunt double.
So yes, I've got in capital letters stuntman. That then he goes into, it's sort of like John Woo's like, right, now we're going to have some fun.
Yeah, so what are we going to do? What can we do with a bike?
Well, so Van Damme's, he's got pickup truck full of guys.
And he's got a handgun.
He's on a bike. The van's coming towards him.
They've all got sub-automatic MP5 machine guns.
So he thinks the best thing to do, his fuel tank's being shot, but he stands up on the bike, fires, manages to kill everybody.
Kills everyone.
And then hits the car, rolls over the top of the car.
But he lands. That's what is so ridiculous, is that it was all a plan.
Yep, it was all a plan, but then they jump onto a train. They escape Lance Henrikson and his gang,
and then they become the hunt.
Yeah, no, there's even the lines like, "We're on his turf now," and I was like, what?
You missed the backstory. So he was raised by his uncle in the bayou.
Oh well, we haven't got to. There's one thing before we get to his crazy uncle. Is obviously one of the most memorable bits of this film is the snake scene.
Yeah, no snakes were harmed during the making of this film.
That robotic snake. So yeah, Van Damme tries slapping it first, then just
it's a great little punch.
He gives it a proper punch with some guitar music. Ding, ding, ding. But yeah, so he lays the trap using this. He bites off the tail of the rattlesnake.
He bites off the rattle part of the rattlesnake to make it mad,
but also to be silent, maybe as well.
Yeah, but it's to make it crazy.
But then knocks it out,
and then puts it on the tree. So the next person who comes, I don't really.
And wakes it up.
Like, do I look like Ray Mears to you? No, I don't. I don't know what's going on.
It's a great trick, anyway.
It is a great trick. But the thing that occurred to me at this point, right? So we're in the bayou, right? It's tropical. Everyone is visibly sweating.
Yeah.
Yet wearing 3 layers of clothes.
Trench coats.
Everyone's wearing trench coats.
It's John Woo, baby.
Yeah, and he's wearing double denim, and Henrikson is wearing, because it goes on fire. I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead, but he's wearing a suit and an overcoat and everybody's a waistcoat, and everybody's sweating.
Yeah,
it's wardrobe, baby.
It's not practical. But so after the snake scene, we get to meet the wacky, eccentric uncle mentor character, because it wouldn't be a Van Damme film without an eccentric mentor.
Got to have something in there, but no flashbacks, unfortunately.
No,
I could have done. This is one I could have done with a flashback. I would have liked to have seen him playing, with him with a semi mullet,
growing it out
to show the passage of time.
But is Uncle Duvet?
Yeah, he's called Mr. Duvet.
Is Duvet a French name? Or is it a Louisiana thing?
I think it's a Louisiana thing, because I remember my wife's French, and I remember asking her one day, she was like, you call that a duvet? And it's not, I don't think the French actually call what we call a duvet, and we pronounce it in a French way in English. I don't think the French do.
They call it duvet.
I don't think they even call it duvet. I think it's called something. I think it's called another word entirely. Right. I think we've come up with that, or it's a hangover from God knows what.
So Uncle Duvet is played by Wilford Brimley, who was in Cocoon.
Yeah, I know exactly who he is, and that is why I know he was ADR'd by somebody else.
Oh no, I think he's properly hamming it up.
He's doing the happy French. He's having a great time. And he's like, "What? I'm in the film for like 10 minutes. Yep, and you'll get to ride a horse. Yep, I'm in."
Well, let's say I've just got it on my Wilford Brimley on a horse with a bow and arrow.
Yeah, I'm in.
But I'm a bit perplexed that so.
I totally forgot about him, by the way.
But Chance turns up and he's like, "I'm being hunted," and he's like, "What have you done now?" and then just decides to blow up his own house.
Yeah,
because some people are hunting his nephew.
If they were that good, maybe it would have just been I don't know.
I think it's just we need a big explosion.
We haven't had an explosion for a while. He's not, there's also a point when he gets his shotgun back, he's not sure what he wants more. Does he want the girl, or does he want the shotgun?
The shotgun, the dusty shotgun.
In a lot of this film, and I don't know if it's John Woo, but guns are really cool.
Guns are. I mean, he loves a bit of gunishment, but
there's a real variation of guns. That gun that Lance is carrying around is brilliant. The
one-shot sort of loaded sort of pistol type thing.
Yeah, it's. The fact that it's powerful, it can make anything explode.
And that's what I've got into. There's they're chasing him, they're flushing him out with the helicopter, and so Van Damme's stunt double is
Van Damme clearly can't ride a horse.
Van Damme's stunt double is on a horse and being chased by a helicopter, and they're firing at him, and the trees are exploding.
Yeah. But
why is everything exploding?
I think that's because Van Cleef is using. It looks like an.
Are you trying to defend John? We would say he's using incendiary rounds.
Not incendiary rounds. No, he's got an the underrigger grenade launcher that you can have on a.
Oh no! But there's just people like the other guys just machine gunning, and when it hits the trees are exploding.
Well, then I think they're using incendiary rounds.
Obviously. So yeah, you've
Origins of Gun Carter.
Possibly. I mean, I think it's probably.
No, sorry, I don't mean to jump ahead, but the final standoff when they get.
So yeah, we've got to the factory fight. So guns, lots of guns. All they've Lance Henriksen's pulled out all the big game hunters.
Yeah,
they've got cars full of guns.
They're going to get lots of money. If any of them survive.
Everyone's tooling up. Van Damme, you said he's got his shotgun of choice. He's picking off people very long distance with a short-range weapon.
It's impressive what he's able to do. But no, when I was saying this is the origins of that great idea, Gun Carter, from that B movie, Equilibrium, where combining martial arts with gunplay, is the fact that he shoots someone, then he punches him, and then he shoots them again.
And obviously throws in a roundhouse.
Oh, obviously there's a roundhouse, yeah. But yeah, I just thought this scene could have been done better. It wasn't that impressive. Do you know what I mean? He's kind of a bit up. It's built up to be, this is a showdown. There's 20 guys. He's in there. There's nothing. I mean, maybe we've been spoilt since '93 with much more impressive final act 3 stakes raised, us versus them things, and I think that's partly because if you just look at it, he's a bit clumsy.
There's lots of shattered glass. There's lots of diving through glass.
Yeah. There's lots of shooting like 5 from 2 meters away from somebody with 2 guns and missing.
Yes.
But yet again, being able to hit the same guy, being able to hit somebody 20 yards away with a shotgun.
In terms of the Gun Carter type stuff, there's a point where he shoots a guy like twice in the chest, but then does a roundhouse on him just to make sure he's definitely
and then he
dead.
shoots him again.
Yeah. So like bang bang. No, give him a kick.
Yeah.
John, I need to do my thing.
And then there's the thing with, I think Lance Henriksen gets shot with a shotgun, and they do the thing that they obviously do in a lot of films where he gets shot with a shotgun and he's on a rope. So when he gets shot with a shotgun, it shows the realistic impact of a shotgun. Yeah. He gets blown backwards. But then he's up. He just gets up enough to take out the wacky moonshine-addled uncle. And yeah, I mean, it's very strange.
But did you notice the exact...
Yes, there's something from a film we'd seen from Face Off.
Yeah, it's the exact same shot.
So you're both against the wall. You're talking to each other. Then you turn around and you look, and then you start shooting.
So yeah, you've got Van Cleef and Boudreaux backs against the wall, talking trash to each other.
Yeah,
and yeah, it's exactly the same as the mirror shot in Face Off. But I think it's better in Face Off when they're looking at each other in the mirror. Targeting each other because they actually are each other.
But do you not think that he obviously... I like that. I'm going to use that again. That was really good. Why don't I do the face-off thing again?
Why don't I throw in some
mirrors?
But
he does do action very well, and we have... When Van Cleef is taken out, it's hilariously good. I mean, when he goes underneath the table, he dives out of a window, twists in the air, lands on the floor, slides along the floor, amazing amount of momentum, and then manages to take out, one of the best actors I think in this film, Vosloo, with 2 guns from
naturally
upside down, and
then he falls on him, but he stops him with his foot, doesn't he?
And then I think does he kick him?
No, he steals a grenade off him, but then I don't know whether he just maybe he does kick him.
Yeah, and then obviously we get to the final death of Lance's character, which is the classic grenade up your jacksie.
What made you want to complicate my life like this?
Poor people get bored too.
Oh. Load me.
I have there's a couple of things I want to chat about this. I have distinct memories, and this is maybe I'm making it better in my head, and maybe getting it confused with Blade, but I was convinced that Van Damme roundhouse kicked the grenade at
I remember him roundhouse kicking a grenade.
Maybe it's in a different Van Damme movie. It might be Universal Soldier, maybe.
There's definitely a Van Damme film where somebody throws a grenade and he Van Damme roundhouses it back at them.
Yeah, and they're going, oh no!
That was the last thing we expected.
But he doesn't, he puts a grenade, but there's the moment where like Lance Henrikson's beating the shit out of Van Damme, and Van Damme, we talked about there's no flashbacks in the film, but he starts having flashbacks, and he has a flashback to the guy at the start, Binder, dying. It's like he wasn't at his death.
Yeah.
He flashes back to the Black Vietnam guy getting shot. His death. He wasn't there when he got. And I think he has a flashback to Uncle Duvet getting shot. So he has multiple flashbacks. Only one that he was present at to spur him on and to jump over the barrel and kick the shit out of Lance Henrikson.
Yeah.
So yeah,
we always like to be honest about how we feel going back and watching these films, and I think we were both slightly underwhelmed going back to Hard Target.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to going back.
Just the pace of it.
I mean, obviously, being a John Woo film, John Woo films are never dull.
No. And there's always doves. We just didn't realise that some of them were sleuths.
Yeah. And yeah, it's a double whammy of it being John Woo and Van Damme. And
we expected more back then, I think.
And again, it's that selective memory. I remember it being really good when I was 10 or 11.
But can you not remember that it didn't do as well? I can.
Yeah.
I think
it was a bit of a flop.
I can remember as like, we got it on video because it was like, should we go and see the cinema? I was like,
well, I would have been too young, but I just remember going, oh yeah, give it a go.
But I can remember it being, or maybe it was after we'd seen it, us being, well, yeah, because us being a bit meh. Yeah. But it did have all the makings of being a great film. And obviously it kick-started John Woo's...
well, I mean, that's it. He still had... so Woo would go on to make Broken Arrow after this. And again...
John
Travolta hamming it up to the max. Oh, actually, no, he hams it up to the max in Face Off. But it still, took him a bit of time to find his feet. I mean... Obviously, Face Off hasn't aged well, as we've covered in our episode.
But that is amazingly bad. It's so enjoyably bad.
Yeah, no, but
and it's Nicolas Cage.
But Face Off gets it right because you've got good actors hamming it up and some great action set pieces.
Yeah,
and he's Woo's kind of
lots of people pulling guns at each other.
Yeah, he's found his rhythm, and the Hong Kong cinema has a different pace and a different way of storytelling.
And clearly a lot more slow-mo.
And there's a lot more jazz in his Hong Kong stuff.
Right.
And Woo himself turns up as sort of like cameos as well.
Okay. Hiya!
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, I mean, you and I were talking about this before, that stuff like Bloodsport, our love for it hasn't changed. Yes, it's pretty ropey. But
it's an exploitation film. It was done on a low budget.
But it's still, there's a lot of fun to be had. Hard Target, I don't think we're going to the sort of the depths of Tango and Cash. We don't want to be, annoying anyone. There's still a lot of fun when it gets going.
I enjoyed it. It was the funny things like the stunt man. I thought Lance Henrikson was a bit hammy, but I remember enjoying this when I was younger, and I enjoyed watching it again. And
I think it's still, for Van Damme's bigger films, there are better ones out there. I mean, I think,
and you've got a lot to pick from. I mean, there are some actors that you've only got 5 films to pick from, but from I mean, Van Damme made a lot of straight to video. This wasn't one of them.
No, this was at his peak. So obviously, I say Universal Soldiers after this, and I'd say that's probably his best blockbuster, his best non sort of martial arts.
Yeah, I think,
even though it has obviously got martial arts in. Time Cop.
Yeah, Time Cop. Yeah, I mean, but
that's a lot of fun. More mullets.
Yeah, definitely interesting mullets as well.
Maybe note that down.
Yeah. What grow a mullet? So, George, is there anything else that we need to discuss?
Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
Unfortunately, I couldn't find any coulda, woulda, shouldas for Bloodsport. It was made with Van Damme in mind to make him into a star. But interestingly, coulda, woulda, shoulda, so other actors that were considered for the role, apparently Kurt Russell was originally sought for, I don't know if the character was still called Chance Boudreaux, or even set, as I think they specially set it in New Orleans for when Van Damme came on board. Yeah, so he was originally approached, but he was locked into different projects, and the studio couldn't wait 2 years for him to film it with him. But apparently...
But they could wait 2 years for Van Damme to grow his hair.
Yeah, that's true. But apparently Van Damme met with John Woo when he was filming Double Impact, which was set in Hong Kong, obviously where John Woo lived, back in 1991. So they were...
Van Damme versus Van Damme.
Van Damme versus Van Damme. One of many films where Van Damme plays a twin. There's or a clone.
Really? Because I've only seen... I think it's only Double Impact that I remember.
There's Double Impact. There is...
You're much more of a Van Damme aficionado than I am.
Then there's his straight-to-video ones. So Double Impact is a brilliant one, is that how do we know that one has slicked back hair and stubble and the other one doesn't?
Yeah. One of them's nice.
And there is another one with Natasha Henstridge, I think it's Maximum Risk, where his twin brother that he never knew existed gets killed at the start, and then he comes in to avenge the brother he never knew's death and sleep with his wife.
As you do.
And then there's Replicant, where he's a clone of a serial killer or something.
Have you ever seen Cyborg?
I haven't seen Cyborg, but interestingly, Cyborg...
I haven't either.
...is another Canon Films production that Cyborg was made using sets that and costume they'd start building for the sequel to Masters of the Universe that never happened.
Right.
And Canon Films were also at the same time trying to make a Spider-Man film because they had the rights and they ran out of money. So Cyborg is using sets and costumes from those two films that never happened.
I smell an episode.
So yes, that might be another Van Damme film.
And also, interestingly, neither of us ever saw it.
So it could be interesting.
Well, it wouldn't actually be much of a retro ramble, though. Maybe we'd have to put a different sort of spin on it.
Maybe, but
it did exist at the time.
We'll have to see what fan demand, listeners demand. If they want us to go back to Van Damme, let us know. Which he has got a lot of films out there, and we will revisit him at some point. So yeah, let us know on the usual channels if there's any key Van Damme films you want us to look at in the future.
Yes, so we are on Stitcher, we are on iTunes, we are on Spotify,
Acast, we're on YouTube.
Yep, and if you've got any questions, obviously we're probably most active on Twitter and Facebook. We post a bit of stuff to Instagram, and then there's obviously the blog at retroramble.blog. So thank you for listening. I've been Charlie McGee.
I've been George McGee.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.